Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of the story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, October 30th, 2021, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan. On How the Frack We Got Here, we do take the events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. Before we do get started, this is a family-friendly podcast. We do try to watch our language, but sometimes words do fly. And we also do show news clips, so things that might be a little too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, let's go ahead and get into it, because I wonder what the wonderful world that we're living in and how we're dealing with vaccine mandates at the moment. Well, I like to sit there and say that we're all being grown adults and trusting the science, but you have a whole bunch of people that think otherwise.
Gerald, tonight, the costly toll behind vaccine mandates. Washington State's head football coach fired for refusing to comply with the state's vaccination order, walking away from a $3 million a year contract. And a sudden reversal from Southwest, no longer forcing unvaccinated employees to take unpaid leave. The airline says they're waiting on exemption requests to be reviewed. The news comes after recent airline disruptions, including more than 2,000 Southwest flight cancellations and delays. The mandate battle also hitting the military. Tens of thousands of active duty U.S. service members still unvaccinated ahead of a looming deadline. Despite pushback across the nation, legal experts say private and public businesses can require vaccinations for employment.
Employees who were terminated for not complying with mandatory vaccination policy technically have been fired for violation of a company policy. In a lot of states, that can result in disqualification from receiving unemployment benefits.
In California, protests over a statewide mandate which requires all K-12 students get vaccinated, while a school in Miami who stopped vaccinated teachers from interacting with students in the spring now saying vaccinated kids have to stay home for 30 days. The school says they don't believe a vaccinated person can infect another, but says they're erring on the side of caution.
Is there any truth to the fact that you can shed the virus?
These vaccines do not administer any sort of live virus whatsoever.
And across the nation, defiance over the jab at police departments. In Chicago, thousands of police officers risking their job to fight the mayor's mandate.
It's about saving lives. It's about maximizing the opportunity to create a safe workplace.
COVID is the leading cause of death among police officers for the second year in a row, but many officers across the country still holding the line.
Megan, could larger companies required to enforce a vaccine mandate be penalized if they don't comply?
Well, Lester, we are expecting official OSHA guidelines in the coming days, but we are anticipating fines for companies that don't comply with vaccination mandates or regular testing for unvaccinated employees.
Crazy, isn't it? That we're literally at this point. As like we're almost 2 years into this pandemic, and yet we are still having the same argument. And I asked this question because I myself am vaccinated, no problem. I was able to, as soon as I was available to me to where I could actually do it. That sentence sounded terrible. When the actual vaccination was available in my area, I went ahead and did it. No problems, no fuss, no muss. And personally, I don't see the problem. Because again, I'm one of those people that I am a science guy. I trust the science. The science has been good to me. So it's like, I don't understand for the life of me the opinions of others when they say, I don't want to get vaccinated. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not calling those people idiots. I am highly concerned because again, this pandemic is relatively new. Even though We've dealt with this for a little over a year now. It's relatively new. And you would think that would be all hands on deck, but mostly what you usually hear from vaccinated people, well, we don't know what's in that shot. Why are they all trying to give it to us? We're all just one big, as one guy put it, we're all just one big old experimental test. We're guinea pigs. We don't know what's in there. Okay, you don't know what's in a 7-Eleven hot dog, but you still eat it. I mean, you guys drink sodas, and no one has questioned what's in a soda, but we've seen all the YouTube videos of what Coca-Cola can do to car parts and toilets. But you don't question that. You don't question, for my vaping friends out there, and for my cigarette friends out there, you don't question what you're smoking. So why in the world, it's like the line in the sand that you choose now, is you choose to question when a vaccine is given to you to help combat a virus that has literally killed so many people. I ask that question all the time. I also ask this question afterwards. Well, what's your alternative? I mean, I've seen people take the holistic approach. Oh, well, I'm just gonna keep on eating, elderberries or drinking sea moss or whatever concoction that people use to not get sick. Okay, there's nothing wrong with holistic approaches. Some of them are very effective. But again, I'm going to be completely honest. I have very rarely seen anybody who's had a bout with COVID and survive and then still come back and sit there and say, you know what? I think I'm good. I'm not going to get the vaccine. I've never heard that. I've never seen that. My thing is, it's like, don't wait. I know this is one thing I keep on saying about these things. Don't wait. Because we've seen what happens when people wait. They don't get vaccinated. They get COVID. And that's a flip of the coin. Whether or not they survive. So I'm just saying at this point, there's a time to be respectable. There's a time that we can respect everybody's opinions on vaccinations, but at the same time, there comes a point to where you have to sit there and make the smart choice. I'm just saying, don't wait too late, especially in the sense of that the FDA has now moved forward with news that we expected that vaccinations will start covering some children age groups.
Issuing that emergency use authorization late today for Pfizer's child vaccine, children 5 to 11, the first COVID vaccine authorized for that younger age group. The first 15 million doses expected to go out across the country within 24 hours. About 28 million children are now newly eligible, 2 shots just like adults, but the shots themselves, smaller needles and about 1/3 the dose that was given to adults. Meantime, tonight, the mandates here in New York City tonight, thousands.
So already you hear from that one. So the FDA, now keep in mind it's emergency sanctions, which means that it's not really being put under law the same way that the Pfizer vaccine, along with Moderna and Johnson & Johnson, which will be coming eventually, did make it to the point to where it can be pushed as a mandate. Now again, guys, I keep pointing this stuff out just because we need to be aware that I'm all for it, because anybody who's ever had kids knows kids are lovable, teachable, and full of wonder. They are also walking petri dishes. I know from personal experience that a child can get an adult sick just because, well, viruses can populate and grow within children, even give variants of certain viruses. That's why you get a different flu shot every year. That's why some people, get certain diseases that they normally wouldn't get around adults, but being around children, you're able to get that. Colds, coughs, I can keep going down the line. But I love the fact that yes, that they are moving forward with inoculating children with the vaccine, because it's going to cut down on a lot of initial contact in schools. Because let's be honest, if you've ever been to a school and them trying to keep up with COVID security precautions, I'm going to be honest, some of that stuff slips through the cracks. Especially when I talked about, like, overcrowded in schools, how are you going to keep them separated? I know remote learning was a challenge for a lot of students just because, you're trying to sit there and still learn education, but if you're more of an in-person learning versus remote, I get the fact that it's been difficult for some students. But I also sat there and still say to this point, until numbers are actually down lower, it's still a risk to send your child to school because, yes, your child can come in contact with COVID, and then because it's your child, that means you're in contact with COVID. So not only can their lives be affected, but the lives of others they've been around. So it's scary to think about that in some areas, but that's how you have to think these days. Because I've seen a baseball team where one kid got COVID and immediately all the other parents, well, it was interesting about those parents now that I think about it, because a lot of those parents were like, you know what, one kid tested positive for COVID, we can't tell you which child it is, but you might want to turn around and get your child tested. And I've seen some parents turn around and immediately get their child tested and find out that, hey, they're completely fine. And then you have some parents that'll be like, okay, he's cool, when's the next practice? So again, I would still heavily recommend for all those parents out there, especially when it comes to this emergency sanction of this vaccine, I would heavily talk with your doctor. Talk with your child's doctor. Get the knowledge from a licensed healthcare professional, or such as a physician, a nurse, those in the medical field. Please do not go to WebMD. Please do not go to people that's like, well, this virus is nothing more than just the U.S. I said, please stay away from conspiracy theorists. Because this is what it used to be. We used to trust our doctors. We used to trust the CDC, the National Health Institute, Doctors Without Borders, the Center for Disease Control. We used to trust all of the World Health Organization. We used to trust all of these medical organizations, and we still need to. So I would say to those parents out there, I think this is a great idea to get your child vaccinated, but I understand it's your child. You have to make the best decision possible for your child. And all I'm saying is the best way to make a decision possible for your child is to definitely speak with your doctor first and go from there. Because to me, a lot of people sit there and say, well, you still can go to the doctor. The doctors push everything on you. And here's my response. If you believe the doctors push everything on you, though, so what do you do when you need immediate medical attention? I mean, if doctors push everything on you, what do you do when you need a medical attention? I mean, it's just like the people talking about COVID. I've sat there and said, well, what do you do when you finally catch COVID? Do you go to the hospital and say, I need help? Because, a lot of people who were COVID patients come back and tell hospitals, I apologize, I should have been vaccinated sooner. Because doctors and nurses, they take an oath to care and do no harm. Well, doctors take the oath. I think nurses take something similar. But again, they're not going to judge you from having COVID. But people who have COVID or who have contracted COVID are sitting in hospital beds, taking up hospital space, to where those that require surgeries, those that require kidney dialysis, or any other type of weekly or daily assistance to continue normal lives, those who are needing transplants and things of that nature, or just their weekly doctor visits, those people are being pushed back and rescheduled just because of the fact that hospitals are full of COVID people. So keep that in mind. That's all I'm saying. As far as just doing your own research and just really going from there, because that will solve a lot of problems going down the road if we can get everybody on board. I keep on saying this. Even I say at the end of my podcast, literally, take care of yourself. You'll take care of each other. Because again, this is how the virus works. And until we finally, for a lot of us to come to our senses, I fear this is going to be the new normal, if you will. That's just me. But moving right along, guys. Some other stuff about this unemployment, about vaccinations, what I still find crazy. And I say crazy because I never thought I would see a conservative state do this, considering the fact that, and what I'm talking about here, as I pull this up, I am talking about this story here, where Iowa has a new law that guarantees unemployment benefits to those fired for refusing vaccines. Let me read this again. Iowa law guarantees unemployment benefits to those fired for refusing vaccines. This was actually signed into law on Friday by Governor Kim Reynolds, who literally signed a bill that says Iowa workers to seek medical and religious exemptions for COVID-19 mandates guarantees that those who are fired for refusing a vaccine will fully qualify for unemployment benefits. Now, I don't know about you if you ever fell on hard times. I know I fell on hard times, but and you've gone through the whole thing with unemployment, and it's an embarrassing, painful, lengthy process, especially here in Tennessee, because not only do you have to file it, you have to wait 2 weeks. So on top of you still trying to find a job, and you kind of need assistance, you have to wait 2 weeks to be validated, or if more. And at the same time, just being fired doesn't guarantee you benefits. But then again, the benefits in these states is poor. I know in Tennessee it's $275 a week. $275 a week for unemployment benefits. And that's if you get them. Even like I said before, I had a story where I got fired. I got fired from a job and filed for unemployment, and they told me I didn't qualify. Why? Even though I had to sit there and appeal it and go, I was fired. It took the state of Tennessee nearly a month or so to finally sit there and say, you know what, he's right, he does qualify, and gave me back my benefit. It gave me my benefits on that. Now, why am I telling this story? I'm telling the story because it just seems that a lot of these conservative states, Iowa being one of them, are going to make it easier for the unvaccinated. And there's just a problem with that. Because, again, look, your job at this point, because the FDA has fully approved the vaccine, jobs these days can impose vaccine requirements. There is not a law out there that sit there and says that no, you can't impose this on me because I have rights, which you do. But there's no law out there that says a company cannot put in a health mandate, which a lot of hospitals did, as I reported in previous podcasts. A lot of hospitals have done that. And again, the shocking part was how many nurses sat there and said, we're not going to get vaccinated. These are people that are caring for COVID patients, but they won't get vaccinated themselves. Now, it's amazing that in Iowa, that people will get benefits from this. And that is nuts. That is completely and utterly nuts. That, okay, if I refuse to get the vaccine and I get fired for it, that is a condition that I can put under there that I was fired for. And again, this is still stupid as all get out. Yes, I said stupid because anybody who sits there and cites religious exemption from vaccines, I'm sorry. I'm like, they always try to put this. Well, it's against my religion. Okay, is it your? I said I could be completely petty and say, is it against your religion to get medical help? Because I can't. I'm like, because the same way they're trying to use the argument is the same way a doctor can sit there and see you and be like, I can't operate on you. It's against my religion. It's almost like I'm not being served at a restaurant. I'm not being served because a restaurant can refuse to deny me service, but also that same restaurant can sit there and not make it, not see the same sex couple, and then 6 months later their doors are closing, and they're gonna sit there and blame everybody else. It's the same argument. So this is why I'm sitting there and saying it is amazing to me how much leeway is given to the unvaccinated. I mean, there are people walking away from jobs. That's the messed up part I don't get, is that you will walk away from a job. Ice Cube walked away from $9 million job just because he didn't want to get vaccinated. Say what you will, I know Ice Cube's got money, but that wasn't, he can sit there and say that because he has financial freedom. He has financial freedom to make every decision he wants. But in my mind, like I said, I've seen COVID up close and personal. All I can do is just be an advocate for it because there are really a lot of people who really should be taking advantage of this, especially for something that we can get for free, mind you. And a lot of people actually get a little bit hung up on that. But aside from that, I did want to speak about this next story because if this is really true, what the Biden administration is trying to do, this may actually, and I said this before in a Facebook group, if the Biden administration is really looking into this and really trying to make this happen, then at this point, the Democrats would have lost the midterm elections before they began.
Negotiating what could be a financial settlement of hundreds of millions of dollars for families who were torn apart. The talks ongoing between the Justice Department and lawyers representing thousands of migrant parents and children who were separated at the U.S. border during the Trump administration. A number of tort cases claiming the families experienced harm when they were forcibly separated. 3 sources familiar with ongoing negotiations tell NBC News that on the table are what for some separated families could be payments of hundreds of thousands of dollars per person in compensation. The Wall Street Journal first reported on Thursday that the Biden administration's in talks to offer significant financial compensation for what the families endured. Sources caution the settlement negotiations aren't final. Former Vice President Mike Pence today lashing out at word of possible compensation for those separated by his administration's policy.
This incomprehensibly stupid idea of passing out up to $500,000 to people whose first act in this country was a violation of our law makes no sense at all.
Under former President Donald Trump's Zero Tolerance Initiative in 2018 and a pilot program in 2017, more than 5,600 kids were separated from their parents after crossing the border both at and in between ports of entry. Many held in cages at the Central Processing Center in McAllen, Texas, as we reported at the time.
People in here are locked up in cages, essentially what look like animal kennels. I don't know any other way to describe it.
Until the policy, crossing the border illegally, a misdemeanor under U.S. law, didn't result in parents who crossed with kids being federally prosecuted and separated from their children. President Biden, as a candidate, was harshly critical of the family separation policy.
It's criminal. It's criminal.
As president-elect, he promised accountability and a thorough investigation of the policy. And once inaugurated, created a task force to reunite the families. Today, more than 1,000 families are estimated to still be separated from each other, according to the White House. In many cases, the parents were deported back to their home countries, while their children remained in the U.S. In May, we spoke with Brian Chavez, the day before he became the first person separated during the Trump administration, reunited by the Biden administration.
It's just a really cruel experience that I just hope no one has to go through.
So far, the task force has been able to reunite around 50 families, with the White House saying many more will take place soon. Lawyers representing families like Brian's hope that's the case, and that the Biden administration agrees to allow deported parents to return to the United States on a permanent basis. The payments under negotiation could go to the separated parents and children, whether they're in the U.S. or Central America. Sources involved in those negotiations worry leaked details of them aren't only creating confusion for families separated, but make them a target of crime as well. Now, those families who have endured so much, again, looking for answers.
Jacob Sobroff joins us now from Los Angeles, and Jacob has done so much reporting on this issue. So I have to ask you, we just heard from the former vice president there, and he threw out that number, $500,000. There's been some reporting about the exact number. I know it's still unclear. But Jacob, how do you put a price tag for the families that have suffered this torture, both the children and the parents?
I think it's almost impossible, Tom, and you use the word torture. That's the exact language that Physicians for Human Rights, the Nobel laureate organization, has called this. American Academy of Pediatrics called it government-sanctioned child abuse. You and I covered this together almost shoulder to shoulder at the time down there in both Brownsville and McAllen, Texas. And what the people close to the victims and those separated will tell you is that there is no price to pay that can right the wrong of the family separation policy. And that is why there is so much caution that the fact that these negotiations are not final and that there are consequences to the negotiations even leaking out right now.
So what's been the reaction from the families and those NGOs who have been working with these parents to sort of reunite them with their children?
I think it's mixed, Tom. I think that there's cautious optimism that perhaps these families could be compensated for something that, they say no human being should ever have to go through. But there's also great fear in their home countries in Central America that this could make them, the announcement, the target of potential crime. And also the fact that this may not happen at all. And that's getting the hopes up of people who have been through just really what is truly an unspeakable tragedy.
Okay, so first off, it's like I said before, if the Biden administration is going through with this. Now keep in mind, Mike Pence, as I like to call him, Mike Pence, serial killer Mike Pence, because every time I look at him, he just gives serial killer vibes. It's just that first and foremost, you really should not be criticizing anyone, considering your former boss, Dorito, decided that it would be a good idea to detain children but send back the parents, and basically turned us in and basically became the new concentration camps for kids. Not just it's like how in the world can the former vice president criticize? Now again, he's not wrong as far as this being a bad idea, because I say this because a lot of people who voted for Biden are going to be looking at him and saying, wait a second, so you guys are thinking about giving out settlement payments to separated families, but what about the rest of us that actually need the assistance? Where is that assistance coming from? The same people that voted for you that sat there and said you would look into this, look into this, look into this and this. Again, it's a bad look. It's a bad look if those separated families are getting U.S. funding and settlements and things of that nature. In the same sense, it looked bad. It was still bad, even though the COVID-19 anti-hate bill, in which, again, there were a rise in Asian attacks on Asian Americans, but it also led to grants. It also led to money. It also led to funding for the Asian American group. So, again, a lot of people didn't know that because it wasn't reported. But it was made available for anybody that did a simple Google search can find it. But here's the thing, because this is such a spotlight issue, especially what's going on in the world, that everything's going up budget paycheck, but you have these immigrants, some of them legal, some of them illegal, may get settlement money from this. And again, I say it's a bad idea, optics-wise, because you're making sure that a group of people are actually getting funding or getting compensated faster than the same people that voted you in, who are still waiting on answers. So again, Biden, it's really a bad look, and honestly, there's not a good outcome from this. If they move forward with this, and I know they stressed heavily that this is still in talks, and that any of this information could be damaging, yes, to Democrats. I mean, yes, it is damaging to families because they are going back to areas to where if people know that they have, if people know they have money, they could be seen as potential targets. True, but here's the more damaging part: that if Democrats are trying to keep the House and the Senate in 2020 and 2022, then it's going to be a lot harder. It is going to be almost, especially if they don't get this Build Back America plan passed. Because let's be honest, and I'll get into that very soon. Along with that, tied with this, and if Biden is more, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, if Biden is more successful in getting this payment plan through to immigrants versus his Build Back America plan, which is supposed to be helping us, and that falls apart, Republicans will be smiling, because everybody who votes Republican has this memory wipe thing where every midterm they'll sit there and say, well, the Democrats haven't done anything but spend, and they've been on this spending spree like someone's got to pay it all back, and that's going to be you, taxpayer. And yes, the other BS that Republicans do spread during midterm elections, because it's the same song, it's just different people playing the parts. But even with that being said, their case will be stronger if those two things happen. So even though they're playing the game and they're trying to pimp us out for votes, it'll be a lot easier for them to sell that BS to people who feel disenfranchised, thinking that Biden and the Democrats, once they finally be given a chance at bat, have struck out. So it's going to be a little bit difficult to win them over in the midterms. It will. And Republicans right now are smiling for multiple reasons, but we'll get into those multiple reasons very soon. Because again, I want to speak about two of the roadblocks. One of them being Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin, because along with Kristen Sinema, again, are the potential roadblocks in the Senate right now to keep the Democrats from pushing through a lot of their bills of reconciliation. But I keep telling you people, when it comes to folks who vote against the wave, there's always money, and you should follow it. Joe Manchin is no stranger to it, considering the fact that he has long-standing ties to the coal industry. And keep in mind, he's in West Virginia, a coal state. So of course, a lot of this stuff, a lot of these senators and representatives literally have a lot of funding in areas to where they have certain access to. In this case, Joe Manchin has access to invest in the same coal industry that he's from. Even more so, which again, I find it interesting that last year he's been reported that he made almost $492,000. I round that off. It says 490, but it's a lot of money. But it shows that in his holdings with InterSystems that he's made that much. That's twice the more of the annual $174,000 salary he gets for being a Senate. And I love how someone put this. Manchin is a walking conflict of interest. Because keep in mind, Manchin has also decided he's also went against any clean coal, any green earth or New Deal initiatives, because again that would cut carbon emissions down, which means that the dying industry of coal would also go out the door. Why? Because coal's a dying industry. No matter how many times I can sit there and say it is, eventually it eventually will. It's on its last legs as it stands, and at the same time, it's just not feasible. It's not profitable anymore. It's just like fracking. Fracking again is a dying industry, but again, as long as folks are allowed to do these things as authorized by the government, then they will continue on. But Manchin again, because Kristen Sinema is the same way. Manchin is bought by the coal industry. I said it. Kristen Sinema is bought by wealthy and corporates. Keep in mind that President Joe Biden turned around and sat there and said, quote unquote, he has been told by Kristen Sinema she will not raise taxes on the wealthy and corporations. She will not raise taxes on the wealthy and corporations. That sounds very different from her Arizona constituents. That's all I'm saying. That just tells you that with these two senators, they are bought and paid for, and they are the Christmas gifts to Republicans that they never asked for, but they're gladly taking on because it makes their case stronger. Because basically all Republicans have been doing is just saying no to everything. Keep in mind, they have killed the Voting Rights Act, would have actually saved and protected voting rights in America. They've sent their raccoon, Tim Scott, to kill the George Floyd police reform bill because him and Cory Booker and others could not come to the deal because Tim Scott's whole job there was not to negotiate. It was just to sit there and argue the point for law enforcement because they will never get rid of qualified immunity, which I believe they should get rid of. But why are we surprised? It's Manchin. Manchin at this point, again, still believes in bipartisanship, and I still think that's a creative BS line because it's like, oh, because again, when it comes to the bill, oh, we're spending too much, we can't do this, but you'll gladly invest, which again is another reason why some politicians should not be allowed to have stock or holdings while they're in office, because again, guys, the risk there is too great. Because, I keep on saying this. There's no such thing as a broke politician. Show me a broke politician in Congress. I'll show you someone who's probably full of it. But anyway, I didn't want to get to, because you guys hear me talk about the Build Back Better plan, and they're gutting it. And it's amazing what's being gutted so far because they're all progressive. Check it out. So this is what's out of the plan. Paid family leave, which again, why is it that every other country every other country outside of America has paid family leave? We are the only so-called progressive state that doesn't have it. And it's out of the plan. It's been reported to be out of the plan. It went from 12 weeks of family paid leave to 4 weeks and to now nothing, which I think is crazy. That the simple fact of the matter is, because of Sinema and Manchin, they have whittled Democrats down to removing paid family leave. They've also removed free community college. 2 years free at community college, which it would have been $109 billion, a drop in the bucket considering what the government's paid for in the wars on Iraq and Afghanistan. But now that's out. They've also whittled down the Medicaid expansion to just hearing, but dental and vision are out, which again is crazy that they went ahead and removed dental and vision but kept hearing in. And then finally, which I still think is another broken promise by the Biden administration, is lower prescription drug prices. We have been saying, guys, the simple fact of the matter is that what's going to wind up happening is that, our level of care in the U.S. is tied to profit. It is. I mean, why is there more money in cancer treatment than there is there's more in cancer treatment than cancer cures? Because the money's in the treatment, money's in the pain. It's not in the cure. You don't make a profit off a cure. So therefore, the money's in the treatments. That's why there's more money being pumped out to treatments and things of that nature than actual cures. Especially in this case, the one case I think about the most, the number of people that are affected greatly, is diabetics. Because insulin, you guys heard me report stories on people insulin rationing. And you would think with some fact of the matter that, that would be an alarm, a red flag to actually get things done. But it is amazing to me at this point that when we removed the Medicaid expansion for dental and vision and kept hearing, but we're still not changing drug costs. And this one woman right here that I'm about to show is a shining example of why things need to change.
All this is insulin.
Donna Miller has been on insulin for her diabetes for nearly 2 decades.
This is long term. This is short term. Breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Her dosages, prescriptions, and monitoring. Routine and like clockwork. Until she got a bill for $3,000.
Well, I can't say what my emotion was on TV, but I couldn't believe it. It's unbelievable.
The 2 insulin drugs she says cost her $100 a month through Medicare skyrocketed to $1,000 a month.
I can't afford it.
This week, President Biden failed to reach an agreement on lowering prescription drug prices in his economic package, which would have allowed Medicare to negotiate directly with drug companies.
No one got everything they wanted, including me.
But an issue critical to the 18 million Americans who can't afford their prescription medication.
It's been an issue honestly, for decades. There's a real risk that it could be, many, many years before they're able to come back to the table and do something about it.
Leaving Americans like Miller taking drastic measures.
Why have you had to change your dosage?
Because that helps you stretch your insulin out.
And the majority of voters across party lines support the government negotiating with drug companies, disagreeing with industry claims it could affect funding for drug research.
What I hope that I could be confident in is that people from all sides of the political party understand that this is not a Democrat issue and it's not a Republican issue. It's a people issue. My friend just gave me this because her aunt no longer needed them.
Without that pile from your friend, though,
then I would have had to buy insulin. I'm so grateful I got that.
With this, Miller says she has enough insulin to last her through the end of the year, but spends her days looking for discount programs to bring down costs.
Without this insulin, what would happen to you?
I'd probably die. I'm telling you, I'm so sure that insulin is a life-sustaining drug. You will die.
And that's heartbreaking, man. That is, and I keep saying this, that this is where the reality is for a lot of diabetic people. That that the price of insulin is so effing high that you have to decide whether or not that you have to ration, which again, most doctors sit there and say that please do not ration your insulin because you run the risk of literally being in the hospital or death. And I just think to myself how crazy this is. That imagine that your insulin went from $100 a month to $3,000. And again, these drug companies are not being held liable. But again, this is why I keep on saying but the drug companies in the U.S., especially health insurance companies, by the way, have got a chokehold on us, because we are, and I mean this with all sincerity, we are the only country whose drug market is limited, closed actually. We don't do business with Mexico, we don't do business with Canada, we don't do business overseas. Because why? Because the health insurance companies in this country love the fact that we are a closed off network. They can sit there, and as much as they want to sit there and say this, guys, it is not true. They do control the prices. Drug companies do control the prices because they're too busy taking in the profits. And trust me when I sit there and say this, health insurance companies love senior citizens. Because why? They have to pay more. They need prescriptions, and they know it. They know that they need Medicare Part D to cover their prescriptions. And again, health companies know it. And they have no problem no problem enrolling people, or rolling out the advertisements and things of that nature to get you to sign up for them, so your prescriptions can be covered and things of that nature. But at this point, prescription prices are going up. And again, we've seen an ineffective group of Democrats, well, two of them, who would argue against it, saying that, we don't really need this plan, when it's obvious we need this plan. It is obvious we need this to go through to help out others in the same position. Not just senior citizens, not just older people, but for the simple fact of the matter is, we need individuals there that will be able to come through and actually do what needs to be done. But that's the sad part about this whole situation, guys, is just that we are still in the same boat. And could it change post-Halloween? Yes, because like I said before, the Halloween deadline that they had put in place to actually approve the plan has been pushed back. Why? Because they couldn't come to an agreement. Well, I shouldn't say because Manchin and Sinema won't budge. It's like having two Republicans and a group of Democrats basically doing the Republicans' work. And Manchin has not provided any alternatives, and Sinema has been too busy posting on Instagram because she has yet to sit there and give alternatives. But she knows the word no. So again, guys, it's heartbreaking, especially if you know someone in that situation that's trying to get everything they can, whether it's prescription things of that nature. Like I said before, it's not looking good for the Democrats going into the midterms next year. It's not looking good. Unless a lot of things change over the next couple of months, the Republicans will start the offensive. And if Donald Trump is still not in jail, trust and believe he will be campaigning. And those who have kissed his ring will be put in position, because as far as the Republican Party is concerned, Donald Trump is still running it until he's in a prison jumpsuit. But like I said, the worst case fear I have is that I don't want 2024 to come around and Donald somehow is still out of prison, because trust and believe, if he's still out of prison by 2024, he will be running again for president. And the scary part is, at this day and time, the bunch of idiots out there, he very well may win again. And that alone is a scary freaking thought. But what we're going to do, guys, is go ahead and switch gears and move on to our feel-good stories, because like you usually know how the Frack we got here, we do cover a lot of things that are bad news, mostly sometimes doom and gloom, and sometimes just kill your faith in humanity. But hey, it's the weekend. I know today it's not the best sunny day, but it's the one day that, for me, it's like I got to wear jeans. It's the one day where I'm back to jeans wearing again, and I'm not complaining because I love fall and winter, because I hate summer. That being said, guys, we want to actually, show some good stories to make you feel great, give you some good vibes, put a little pep in your step, to make you feel better about life. And this first story I did show during my midweek review of what a boss is supposed to do for its employees to let them know that they are loved and appreciated. And I'm not just talking pizza parties. I mean, the CEO of Spanx really did something unexpected, and I just want to share that with everybody else.
When I started the company in Virginia Highlands, on the whiteboard in my room, I wrote a goal down, and I said, this company will one day, I said, this company will one day be worth $20 million. And everybody laughed at me, and I said, I really believe that. And so to stand here today and think about what we've been able to create and what we've been able to do by being authentic and kind and deliver amazing products to women, to use very feminine principles in a very masculine space, which is business, leading with intuition, vulnerability, all the things that 21 years ago I thought, well, let's just try this and see what happens. And I will tell you that I think it's a really big moment in time for women, and this marks a moment for female entrepreneurs. There aren't enough women being funded out there. There aren't enough women getting the support. 50% of entrepreneurs are women, and only 2.3% of all VC funding goes to women. So you can see there's a pretty big gap there. Of course, I have my lucky red backpack. This is the original. You can see all the dirt on it. Another big milestone in the journey. I wanted it on my back. It makes me feel very secure and happy. This is a very big moment for each and every one of you. And I want to also toast the women that came before me and all of the women in the world who have not had this opportunity. So in a moment like this, I think of my mom and my grandmothers and their lack of options, and all the women that came before them, that this would have only been a very remote dream. And so even me as a little girl growing up on Fairwater Beach and watching my mom and her lack of options really couldn't have even grasped this moment. Why am I spinning a globe? Why am I spinning a globe? I'm spinning a globe because to celebrate this moment, I have bought each one of you 2 first-class tickets to anywhere in the world. You know, if you go on a trip, you might have to, you might want to go out to a really nice dinner, you might want to go out to a really nice hotel, and so with everybody's 2 first-class tickets to anywhere in the world, you are each getting $10,000.
I'm gonna go on my honeymoon with my fiance, and we're going to Bora Bora. Woo! And where are you going? I'm going to South Africa. Woo! Where are you going?
I'm gonna fly to Sweden and elope with my girlfriend.
Where are you going on your trip? No idea, but somewhere cool.
And cue the white people ugly dancing. But aside from that, it's still a good story. It's still a great story. Why? Because the simple fact of the matter is the Spanx CEO decided that they were going to go ahead and do something that was unprofound. That I wish a lot more companies would do besides give us pizza parties and pats on the back and then congratulate themselves for giving us pizza parties and patting themselves on the back. Is that basically what she did? Like you heard in the Instagram story, she gave all of the people in her company 2 first-class tickets to anywhere they want to go to in the world and $10,000 a piece. And I don't know about you guys, but that's a great way to let me know if I'm appreciated. You're gonna send me to wherever I want to go to in the world in first class, and then on top of that, pay me $10 and give me $10 grand to play with. Okay, cool. But again, it's about appreciation. I cannot stress this enough. As a person who literally and figuratively, if you've seen my Facebook posts, you know I get triggered by pizza parties because that just seems to be the norm. That seems to be the norm for management doing the least for their employees who do the most. Pizza parties, in my mind, are an insult. They're like the cheapest thing you can get to show what exactly? We're going to show your appreciation by pizza. But as you can see here, there are some people out there that really believe in making sure they're taking care of their employees. And the CEO of Spanx, I'm surprised Spanx is still around, but hey, it must be a good product. That the CEO then has decided that I'm going to give my people, 2 tickets to wherever they want to go to in the world and $10,000. That's not bad. I can live with that, and that just shows the fact of the matter is there are some good CEOs out there that have no problem showing their appreciation for their employees. So I always thought that was cool. But the other feel-good story I got, guys, is about another story about a high school. And no, I'm not talking about the high school giving out lap dances, but this one principal, just to show the school spirit, does got some moves that did get recorded and then get uploaded to the net.
Welcome back. It's time for Feel Good Friday, where we bring you a little good news heading into the weekend. And today is all about a Chicago principal whose smooth dance moves stunned her students. Take a look.
That's what's up. Let me say, hey-o. Say, hey-o. Let's go. Now bounce. Hey.
All right, now, whoa, look at that. That was interim principal at Walter Payton College Preparatory High School, Farida Shabazz Anderson, showing off her moves on homecoming night. It's the first quarter that students are back in person at Walter Payton College Prep. And she said they wanted to celebrate by bringing everyone together. And we've got a special treat for you on this Feel Good Friday. This is Principal Shabazz Anderson joining us live. Hey, good to see you.
Hi, Kenneth. How are you? Hello, everyone.
Hey, thank you again for joining us. So take us back to that moment. Did you always know you were going to do what you did, bust out those moves that night?
I did know, but when the spirit moves you, you have to get out there and you have to show the students that you still have it. So, it's always exciting to party with our young people and have an opportunity to enjoy the space with them. So
it's always good when they want you to party with them as well.
Right.
So let's show off that video. We can see it a little in the video. But what was the reaction really from those students when you broke out those moves?
I think they were very surprised. They didn't know that I could do that. And I don't think students dance much like real dance anymore. So I think that they were excited to see that, I still had some cool moves in me.
Look, you're like, I wasn't always the principal. I got another life here. So what was your students' reaction when you saw that the video went viral?
I was so surprised. So I actually have 2 sons who are in high school, and they came to me and they said, "Mom, you're on TikTok. Mom, you're on Twitter." And I was like, oh my goodness. And the students came up to me and they said, Principal Shabazz, you've gone viral. And I couldn't believe that this had happened. And it had moved so quickly. I mean, it was like less than 24 hours. It had just caught on and everyone was just really excited about it.
No, it's just really impressive. And we know that it's been a tough time for schools when it comes to this pandemic, families, educators. I'm a big fan of educators like yourself. And when it comes to COVID-19, you guys have been going through it. So what did it mean to have everyone together in person for homecoming?
Well, it was really exciting. We had to follow a lot of protocols. We weren't sure if we were even going to be able to have our homecoming dance. We had to make sure that our students were vaccinated or had a negative test. We had a really big setup. We had students spread out throughout the building so that they can enjoy themselves. We had an outdoor setup, and all of our entire school community came together so that our students could have this moment with one another so that school could feel normal again. Our student government came out, our parents, our school community, our Friends of organizations, and everybody just worked together to make sure that we could have this moment with our young people and with our school community again.
Such a great moment. And, before you go, I have to ask, people think that the principals are all serious, no play, very strict. Even though with my principals in South Carolina, I was able to disarm them. They love some Kenneth Moten when I was in 11th grade. But I think you're not fun. What do you say to that when people say y'all are just too buttoned up?
I would say that you should really get to know your principal. We are people outside of the schools, outside of these spaces, and we love our students. We want the best for our students, and we want to see everyone learn and grow. And we like to have fun too. So everyone get to know your principal and hug them, share the love, because we have really been through a lot along with our students and our faculty in these last several months.
You sure have. And talk about schooling the kids. You gave them some lessons on that dance floor, so congratulations on that.
Thank you, Ken.
No, I thought that was pretty cool. Just to see a principal get down like that and really be in tune with her students. I myself definitely, it's funny when they say, principals are people too. And I know I had some, I had to think about it. Yeah, I had a great elementary school teacher, elementary school principal who was really cool. High school, not so much. Yeah, she was a troglodyte. But anyway, it's nice to actually see a principal that's actually being great with their kids and actually showing off moves and having fun and not, trying to show them that she's right, that principals are human too, and that getting to know your principal can be life building. But some people who are truly about being an educator and just being there for kids, especially, and I have a special place in my heart for educators, because those guys have, in my mind, the most honored profession, but the hardest profession out there in the world is teaching and shaping young minds. And if it wasn't for educators that came into my life, I wouldn't be the person I was today. So it gets me right here whenever I see a teacher or a principal that's just really beloved by everybody, and you can tell that it's genuine for them. So again, it got me right here a little bit. It made me think about some teachers that really did shape my life. But the last feel good story we got, guys. Again, I keep on saying, and I'll never stop saying this: the importance of a father figure in a child's life is immenseful. Now, don't get me wrong, mothers. Do not get me wrong, mothers. For y'all start coming for me. Mothers are always needed, and moms will have your back no matter what. She will make sure you're covered, even though you're a grown man. I'm almost damn near 40. My mom still makes sure I'm taken care of. Even though I sit there and tell her I got it, she will still sit there and say, okay, you still need it though. You still need me. And she's right. I still need that woman because, again, she brought me into this world and she can take me out, as she used to tell me. But again, fathers have their own place in a child's life too. And you can tell so with this next group and what they did and how they are literally and figuratively transforming a school.
Southwood High School in Shreveport, Louisiana, 23 students were arrested for fighting within only 3 days. But get this, there hasn't been an incident since that happened. And that's because of an unusual intervention by a group of dads. See those gentlemen there on your screen? They call themselves Dads on Duty. They're about 40 dads who spend time at the school on shifts. Listen, I would imagine there are some kids there, Zach, without, a father figure, right? So what does Dads on Duty there, being there, what does it mean to the kids who may not have a father figure or a role model at home?
It means a big deal because me, myself, I came up in a single parent household. So if you have that special connection, it's your approach. And when you get the right approach, they'll open up to you. They'll tell you what's going on in their personal life, because you got kids that come to school, one day they're angry, one day they're happy. It's something fluctuating at home. So when you reach that part with them, when they actually listen to you and open up, you've done a big thing already, because a lot of kids don't respond to people. When they're going through a lot, they shut off. Say example, I got one kid, he was happy one day, seen him again 2 days later, he's standing in the corner by himself, but since he opened up to me before, when he see me, he'll talk to me. Might keep him from doing something that'll potentially ruin his life.
Tracy, have you seen a change, Tracy, in any of the kids?
Absolutely. For us, just being there makes a big difference. Seeing male dominance. At first, it was kind of shaky, but now, when we walk up, good morning, how you doing? You give them good affirmations for the day. And it helps them a whole lot. It controls their temper because you don't know what happened to them. Maybe driving to school, they might have gotten into an argument with the parent or the night before. But just seeing us and we are embracing them in a different manner, it makes all the difference in the world.
Craig, what do you have to say?
Well, they talk about it from the standpoint of the children, but the other flip side are the educators and the administrators. I see a perkiness to them because they now see that they have extra reinforcement. And so they give us smiles and thumbs up. And so now you have the village concept coming in because just because they're hired as educators, that doesn't mean that they don't need assistance. And I'm the guy who does not have children at the school. So I'm supporting them because they are the parents. So I play the background role, but the teachers are definitely very pleased.
And again, I just thought that was great. Because keep in mind the backstory about this was high school in Shreveport had one big fight where 20 plus students were involved in it and were suspended. And these dads, these black men, saw this and said they had to intervene. And where dads on duty came into place, where they would monitor the halls, they would speak with the students. The interesting thing about this, since that organization has been there at the school, there have been zero fights, zero issues with the students. And I remember on I was watching one news video earlier in the week about this, and they said, what do you think, one reporter had asked one child, what do you think is the reason for these black dads being here that nothing happens? And the girl said this so eloquently, have you ever seen the stare from a black dad? And anybody who's ever, not just black fathers, but fathers in general, when you've masked, I remember the stare. My old man, when I messed up, that stare had all murderous intent behind it. Like, try me if you want to. And again, I find myself now with my nieces and nephews and with kids that I people have charged me with looking after sometimes. I do the same thing. I give them the death stare, or I get my voice out and they hop too. And it's not to be overbearing. It's to instruct and correct, but also be there to support. Which with a lot of these things, these black dads on duty that they're doing in Shreveport, it's not just monitoring, but like the guy said, it's getting them to open up. It's getting them to talk about their issues. It's getting them to see what's going on, and that tells you alone the importance of a black dad, of a black father. It does. It tells you the importance of a black father in a child's life. And yes, I say black father because, again, for black people, that's the one thing I keep saying. There's nothing, shout out to the single parents that are doing it great, to the single mothers out there that are doing wonders right now. But I'll say it once and I'll say it again. There's nothing like having a black father along with a mother to teach the child, because the child will get exactly what he needs. But again, my soapbox, I just love the fact of what they're doing there. But that's going to do it for this podcast, guys. So I do thank you all for watching, for letting people know who went live. It's definitely most appreciated because I have people rolling up to me in the weirdest places and saying, hey, I've seen your podcast. Okay, you might not want to tell me in the bathroom, but hey, cool, I'll take the compliment. But before we do get out of here, I did do some shameless plugging. I did first talk about my buddy Big VZA Dot, who can be found on what's been on Facebook, Big VZA Dot and socials, where he has a couple of podcasts of his own. The first one's called Smoking Trailer Sundays, every Sunday from 6:30 to 9 p.m., in which he shows trailers of movies and video games that he finds interesting and therefore wants to share with you. He also has the REF podcast, like America's Funniest Home Videos, except done by Worldstar, every Tuesday from 6:30 to 9 p.m. He also has a gaming channel called Making Plays, in which you can find it on his Facebook page, A.Witherspoon on Facebook, and Big VZA Dot on all socials. Also, shout out to Ari and Gee present Geek Salad for allowing me to share this podcast on their page. I certainly do appreciate it, fellas. And hopefully the next Geek Salad that we can all hook up, because I love being on that show and it's fun talking to you guys about different things of geekdom that way. You can find Ari and Geek present Geek Salad on Facebook and on YouTube just by their name. It's Geek Salad especially, because I have to give Ari and G props for that, for coming up with Geek Salad. But definitely check them out, like, share, and subscribe as well. And finally, for yours truly, the link at the bottom, you copy and paste that in your browser, will take you to my link tree for all my YouTube and Facebook podcast groups, How the Frack We Got Here, Off Limits, and Get Bit. My IG handle, Blackbox447. Definitely follow me on Instagram, as I do post movie reviews, especially the movie I will post for My Hero Academia World Heroes mission today. And also, I do post video game reviews and sometimes inspirational stuff and gym stuff. You know, I look like I'm in shape, you know, top up, but I do a couple push-ups, but I try. But definitely like and follow me there. Aside from that, guys, the one thing I'll keep saying before this podcast is a wrap is just that vaccinations work. Please get vaccinated. Please do the research. Please ask qualified medical personnel. I cannot stress this enough. Please ask qualified medical personnel if you are unsure about these vaccines. But the quicker you are vaccinated, the quicker you can get the booster, and still wear a mask, because again, it's getting cold outside. Winter is coming. So again, mask up whenever you can. And at the same time, take care of yourself. When you take care of yourself, you're taking care of each other, and you're helping us get these numbers down, and you're making it easy on our healthcare professionals out there in hospitals, doctors and nurses and everywhere else, because they are still working maddening hours, dealing with COVID patients, and at the same time still trying to keep their sanity. So definitely kudos to them all out there. So, the last thing I'll say about How the Frack We Got Here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to change minds or persuade individuals. We are simply doing what the news stations of old try to do, is basically give you all the information and allow you to make up your own mind. We do a lot better as a society once we're informed. We're progressive, we move forward, we try to right the wrongs of our past by doing and making decisions that should have been done today, like electing our first Madam Vice President who is black. Still open for Michelle Obama and her husband in 2024, because Michelle, much like Tom from MySpace, you are a national treasure, and we kind of need you right now, because Facebook went meta. And again, I'm surprised that Facebook didn't go somewhere else, because Mark Zuckerberg looks like a robot. But that being said, guys, that's going to do it for this podcast. Thank you for watching. If you're watching this live, I appreciate that. If you're watching this on the playback, please comment if it's live. I still want to know what you guys thought of everything that we covered. And if there's any stories or news out there that you would like me to research and talk about, definitely reach out to me, How the Frack We Got Here, on YouTube and on Facebook. Take care of yourselves and each other, guys, and we will get through this. Peace.